Well, good evening, everyone, from East Coast to West Coast. I am on the other side of the country. Still got sun coming in my window. Uh, it's a pleasure to do this for Trent. I'm very impressed with his dedication to the profession, both young and old, to take on this great task. It's an honor for me to do just my little bit every now and then whenever he needs me. One of the most difficult things for me as a presenter is I'm presenting to people that have, I think the gal a couple weeks ago had 2.5 weeks experience at Caltrans. And Mr. Parrish and I have 50 years. So how do you tailor a presentation to that big an audience? So I'm going to bore some of you old timers. I'm going to take it down to beginning level for the first part of the presentation. And I'm going to throw in a bunch of business, which should be interest to Trent and people like that. So let's kind of hang together and see how this goes. And if you have any questions, I tend to talk a little bit fast since I'm from the West Side. And if you need something, holler at me and we'll stop, go through it. The PowerPoint presentation will be available to you through Trent. And also, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, my email's on there. You can call me anytime and we'll sit and talk about this. So tonight we're going to talk about the business aspects of ALTA surveys from the other side of the table. We as professionals all understand our side, and we get a little frustrated saying that idiot on the other side of the table doesn't know what he needs. But we have to keep in mind, first and foremost, that idiot pays our bills. So although we like to bite our tongue when we hear these silly questions, we have to really work at pleasing the client so they come back as a repeat client. Because as Trent and anyone that has their own business knows, repeat clients is what it's all about. Developing a new client takes a lot of time and money, and also to lose an existing client is also dangerous. So what I'm going to do is walk through some of these things for you so you can kind of get a feel for it. I don't know if, okay. The first slide I want to talk about is all of you are in different states. I know we've got the East Coast. I think we had a gentleman from Georgia. Each state has their own continuing education requirements, CEUs. California, we call them PDPs. I'm sure every state has another 3 initial for your requirement to stay active in your education process to maintain your license. If you fail to do this, that's one of the first reasons they'll pull that license. And all of us who've set for that exam don't want to set for it again. So you're going to be taking classes throughout your career. And I put a slide in here. And folks, I'm not going to read to you line by line. That's what I want you to do is take these away, think about them, have some questions, and we'll talk about it. But the main thing I want you to take away from slide number 2 is simply this. I know one gentleman on the line does a lot of pipeline work. So he probably does 0 ALTA surveys, probably does 0 50-story buildings. The point is you have to go to different seminars and workshops to learn other aspects of surveying. I always equate it to we're very much like the medical community. I unfortunately have had a lot of surgeries. I've had a lot of specialists who've fixed me and kept me going. In fact, next week, folks, is my 69th birthday, next Monday night. So maybe I'll be around. If not, you can sing happy birthday tonight. But during that time, I learned that the specialist, you have a guy who specializes in knees. He doesn't do heart. He doesn't do oral surgery. He doesn't do skin surgery. And we surveyors tend to think we can do it all. And let me be your wake-up call tonight. This is one of many memos you'll get from Jay Seymour. You are not a specialist. And you can also not do A to Z, ALTAs to zone change. Find what you do best. Stay with that. Expand out from that to do similar type projects. I never built a high-rise building. I never did a pipeline. But I did 3,000 ALTA surveys, so I guess you would say I know a little bit about those. So just keep this in mind when you see speakers, when this COVID finally leaves us, and it will. We're going to go back to live seminars, live presentation and workshops, and myself and other gentlemen and ladies go all around the country putting on these seminars. Look and see if any of us do something that's of interest to you that develops your personal career and your professionalism and makes you a better surveyor. Now, I put this on there because I knew Trent forgot a little bit about Jay. And again, when you're as old as I am, your resume gets to be a little long, but it still fits on one slide. But the one thing I want to tell you, and I'd like to see Trent smile here in a moment. I met a young lady in South Dakota when I was doing a presentation there. And she told me she was licensed in 28 states and was a CFED surveyor. So we had a break and she and I were eating lunch together. And I leaned over to her and I said, how many states has your boots been on the ground of that 28? Anybody want to take a guess with the sign of your fingers? Where's that at? 4. 4 of 28. She has a wall of those. And then also in my travels, I met a gentleman in Missouri that's licensed in all 50 states. And in his conference room is the wall of the United States, all the licenses. And he had only surveyed in 1, Missouri. So sometimes that gets to be impressive, but I will tell you this much as advice for memo number 2. Throughout your career, you're going to get an opportunity to survey outside your backyard. That's a very dangerous opportunity. If I got a call tomorrow to do an ALTA survey in downtown Las Vegas, who do you think I will probably call? A gentleman with the Mentoring Mondays behind his head? Because he knows the area, he knows the control, he knows where the blocks don't close, he knows where there's been some lot line adjustments that never got recorded and lines are 1, 2, 20 feet off. David Bush is my associate here in Orange County, and he and I can tell you we will not survey in San Diego or downtown San Francisco, or for that matter, in the middle of nowhere, Bishop, because each area has its own local color, and you've got to be careful about that. So when someone tells me how many states they're licensed in or how much experience they have, I always then say, where do you work? Where do you get your bread and butter? Where's your money come from? Very important. I've owned my own business since 1984. I still do seminars. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, COVID kind of stopped that this year. But I also had to come out of full-time retirement and go to work for Orange County Surveyor. I am one who works on the dark side now. I work for the governmental agency. I am the guy that bounces back your documents when they're not up to the state law. So I've get quite a read when I go to my local dinners here, Trent. Everybody goes, what? You work for the county now? So it's been kind of fun. But idea being I've got a little bit of public experience and a hell of a lot of experience in the private sector. Now let's talk for a moment about what the public perceives about us. Now, again, I don't need to read all these, but I want you to look at the last word of each one of those lines. The attorneys say we are always late. The title officers say we're always late. The developers say we're always late. Governmental agencies, you guarantee we're going to tell you you're late. And the state board, each one of us have a state board in your state that regulates, and they're there for one and only one reason, and please listen very carefully. They're there to jerk your license, not help you. You get documentation and a letter from your state board, you're probably in trouble. And another thing you all need to always keep in mind, in surveying, this is a hard one to swallow, we are guilty until proven innocent. When a charge is brought against you, you then have to go back to your documentation, to your boundary establishment and analysis, all the information you have, and prove to everyone that you are right. It's not like all the other things in laws. And that's something you need to keep in mind. And I dropped that because I want you to understand everything you do, be it ALTA surveys, boundary, construction staking, document what you did. There's a phrase in surveying we call putting down footprints. Following the footsteps of your predecessors is the #1 law in boundary surveying. Same thing Steve Parrish will tell you when we talk about the public lands. You've got to follow in the GLO footsteps. Those same footsteps are the same ones you put down on everything you do. Everything we do is subject to liability. We have to remember that. It may be a long time for it pops up, but it will pop up. Now, the one thing I have spoken at state bar associations, I've also been honored to speak at the ALT, American Land Title Association's national conference in St. Louis and in San Diego a few years back, and talk about walking into the lion's den. Try being a surveyor in a room full of title officers. I mean, I was treated very unkindly the first 14 minutes I was speaking. And it was always come back to you guys cannot measure the same thing twice, even yourself, much less agree with another surveyor. And if I have this ALTA survey from 1967, why are you wrong, Trent, in 2020? You go, well, and then you start doing your tap dance and explaining what's going on. But what you should take away from slide number 4 is we have a bad perception of our profession to the rest of the world. And I'll tell you something that's also very shocking, and I want you all to think about this. Are we a profession or are we a craft? Are we like carpenters and bricklayers and stone cutters and graders? Are we that or are we professional? Because a lot of the people on this slide do not look at us as being professionals. That's a shocking thing, but guess what, folks? I'm not going to tell you how it should be. I'm telling you how it is by talking to this group of people right here. Little things like most of our surveyors are hats on backwards. A lot of cigarettes, dirty pickup trucks, dirty vans. Vest may look like it was bought in 1967, on and on and on. But guess is the only time we see the surveyor is the guy or the girl, and I apologize now. I'm an old guy. Sometimes I do the generic just men. So let me apologize up front. But the problem is they are the perception of us to the general public and to the professional community. Now, I've often said I had a nice experience in Kansas. I rented a red Impala and parked in the parking lot of over 100 white pickups and white vans. So at the first break, I went to the microphone. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I just hit a white pickup in the parking lot, and I didn't get the license plate. You guys want to come up? You should have seen the room. Everybody, my truck, my truck. We all have white trucks, right? And what's the other thing on all those white trucks? No advertising. Why? I've heard all the reasons. Well, we don't put that on there in case we get in a wreck and they can be able to look us up. Or, you know, I may be going across the property line I don't want, so I don't want to see the name of the company on there. Again, this comes back to the image that we portray to the people. You ever seen a plumber's truck with no plumbing names on the side of it? Or an electrician? Okay. You see how we're getting this craft versus profession? Something to think about. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of ALTA surveys, American Land Title Association. I put this together and it's really good because we all know that surveying is nothing but history. We are nothing but that. What happened before is what we do today and tomorrow. So this may come as news to some of you. Some of you may know all this. 1941, ACSM, American Congress on Surveying and Mapping, was born, and it died in 2012. Now, we could talk a long time about ACSM and what NSPS is today. And I believe, Trent, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's only 2 states that are not in NSPS right now. That's my beloved California, and I think Arkansas or somewhere over there. So 48 of the states are on board with the National Association. And I hope that everyone on the line tonight understands we have a state chapter. You may or may not have a lot of local chapters. And then you have the national chapter, which is NSPS. ACSM morphed into NSPS in 2012. Now, the next one I found to be very interesting. Did you know we've had minimum standards since 1946? A lot of people don't know that. That's published. They always think of the ALTA standards where we got really technical about angles and sigma error circle of your distribution of error and all the things we've done later on this slide. But we've had standards since 1946. And the first person says, Jay, are you that old? I'm not. I missed that one by 5 years. In 1962, then ATA, American Title Association, in coordination with ACSM, got together for the first time to put out a national standards. Now, you probably asked the question, why do we have a national standard? Jay, I'm in Las Vegas, I'm in Phoenix, I'm in Topeka, Kansas. Why do I need a national standards? And here's the very short answer. I've got a slide coming up, will show you a worst case scenario. But the problem is the money comes from maybe the East Coast. The title may come from the central part of the United States. The property may be in California. So with all these people involved in the process, we had to have national standards. Now, in 1962, and I began my career in 69. So I worked under the very first standards and have worked all the way through them through the years. In 1962, ATA said we want only one thing. Take a record boundary or paper boundary. Is everyone familiar with that phrase? The paper, it's not been field surveyed yet. Take that and put it on the ground, sometimes for the very first time, and then tell us 5 feet inside and 5 feet outside of that line what encroachments or problems we have with the boundary. That's all they wanted in 1962. Look where we are today. Today, an ALTA survey is an engineering design, architectural, topo, full title search, full easement documentation, all bundled together, unfortunately, at the same price of the boundary and topo. But we could talk about that at another workshop. In 1979, the standards were not jointly accepted. Now, this is kind of one I like to throw in because a lot of people don't realize that. We as the surveyors changed the standards in 79, but ATA, which finally became ALTA, did not honor our 79 standards. So from 1979 to 1986, we were functioning under our own rules and weren't playing nicely with the company that formed the standards. And that caused a lot of problems. In 1986, we finally said, okay, we're sorry. Let's sit down and talk and see if we can redo this. Now, has anyone on the line heard about a guy named Gary Kent from Indiana? Gary is the premier expert on ALTA surveys. He's a past president of ACSM, I think it was 1988, and he's been in charge of the ALTA subcommittee at NSPS since its inception. Gary is our go-to guy. If you don't like these standards, there's your phone call, because he and a handful of people across the country have developed these over the years. I've had the privilege to share a stage with Gary twice, and it's a lot of fun. The man knows his stuff frontwards and backwards. He's got it down. In 1988 and 1991, we came up with what's called a Table 3. All of you today know that as optional Table A items. So this table morphed into where we are today, which is what, 26, 27 items in optional Table A. In 1994, the measurement standards finally reared their ugly head because ALTA said, you don't have any standards. And we said, hello, look what we had since 1946. But all of a sudden in 94, we got really carried away. And if you look back at your history, folks, you'll see where we talked about angular disclosure and angular and distance relationships, where I actually had an attorney one time tell me he wanted me to do a survey a certain way. And I said, where did you get that? He said, I ran the standards and I got a book on surveying. I thought, oh my God. But that was my client, remember? The guy I'm supposed to like, because I want to take about $10,000 of his money. Moving on. Anybody on the line do HUD, Housing and Urban Development Surveys? Don't. I put HUD surveys right up there with riparian water boundaries, okay? Or perhaps Steve Parrish, a missing section 6 on a second standard parallel, you know? You guys will hear about that some night. Those are things you don't want to do because HUD has their own set of ALTA standards. And people I've talked to across the country say, man, if you know them, you're in good shape. If you don't and say you're going to do a HUD survey, you are screwed. So keep in mind that HUD statement there. 1999 was the first time NSPS was a signator on the ALTA standards. Since then, our NSPS, our national voice, has been involved with these. In 2011, we did the first major rewrite of the standards in 50 years. Gary has a wonderful workshop on that. He also has, I think, some things online. You can actually download them now. The one thing you want to take away from 2011 is we put everything in order in the way you do it. Receive the documents, research, field work, boundary analysis, drafting, final signature and certification delivered to the client. Prior to that, we were all over the place. Now they finally got it all cleaned up. 5 years later, in 2016, Gary and the committee found a lot of things they didn't like, a lot of things that the surveyors didn't like, a lot of things the title people didn't like, and we called the 2016 standards a tweaking or a kind of a fine-tuning of the 11 standards. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, here's an example. A client calls you and says, I have an ALTA survey done in 1999. I would like you to update it to the 2020 standards, but I don't want to pay for a new survey. Can you just sign it to the 1999 standards? And the answer is as loud as you can scream it, N-O with a big exclamation point and other finger gestures. You can't do that. You can only certify to the current statutes in place. Now, the other big thing that I found a problem as I've traveled is surveyors are sometimes told to do a certification that the client or the legal people or the lender ask you to sign. Again, the answer is no. And here's your answer, your escape clause for you people online that do this survey, is if you change the certification, it is not an ALTA survey, they cannot get ALTA insurance, and that closure is going to get held up and cause a lot of problems, okay? So when they hand you that certification, you say, I'd love to, but you'll lose your coverage, and that's why we're doing all this. Now, for the new people on the line, an ALTA survey is only used on property where money is exchanging hands to protect the statute of fraud by obtaining title insurance. You don't do ALTA surveys on single-family homes. It's almost exclusively residential, multifamily sometimes, apartment buildings, but it's the commercial and the industrials where the ALTA market lives. So any questions on that anybody wants to throw at me, or we'll take a break with a cartoon, which is more fun. Okay. This I've had for over 40 years, and finally I found it on the internet in color. And let's just have a little fun with this for just a moment. What the client really wants. Now let's take it out of order. Jump clear to the end. What he wanted was a tire swing. Okay, that's all he wanted. Just give me a tire swing. Now take it back up to number one, how the customer explained it. That's how somebody heard what the client wanted. 3-tier seat on a tire swing. Okay, let's go on and see what happens after that. Then we hand it over to a project leader. Now, all the small companies can't really get the humor of this, but if you ever work for a big corporation, this is corporate America. This is screwing something up at its finest. Number three, how the engineer designed it. Do we have any civil engineers on the line? Hopefully not. I sure have fun with them, but there's none tonight. You see how the engineer did it. And then, of course, we have to get the programmer involved because we are now high tech, right? We have data collectors, we have drones, we have scanners. I couldn't even go out and field survey right now because I don't know how to get all this stuff out of the truck and turn it on. But we're going to have a programmer write a program for us, and look what the programmer did. Now, again, the big corporation has a sales executive. Look how he describes it. Notice the sun in the background, nice chair. I wanted a tire swing, but look, I got a chair, just like the one Josh was sitting in there. Now, oops, the project documentation. Now, everybody see and hear the crickets and the birds flying? There's not a thing in documentation. Now, you laugh at that, but that's true about anything, and here's how I can prove it to you. David Bush, I found one of your monuments at the corner of Main and 7th Street in downtown Santa Ana. How'd you set it? Of course, his mic's mute. There he comes.
Yes, I'm here.
And David's probably going to say something like, well, can you tell me a little bit more? Like, do you know my job number? No, sir, there's not a job number stamped on your monument in the field. Okay, do you know my client name? I don't know who your client was. I don't even know when the hell you set your monument. And we continue with the dumb questions back and forth, right? But the bottom line is the phone call said, I found your monument and it's off. Now, the beauty of GIS, as I see it, is we'll be able to pull this up a lot quicker and pull up a surveyor's narrative, surveyor's report, boundary analysis, the research I use, and how and why I set that point. Now, in my day, I had my CAD guys with one screen as the documentation in a Word document, just bullet points. Found this corner record, found this document, held this, rejected this monument, so on and so on. Just all the way down the page. And on the big screen is this CAD drawing. And on the CAD drawing on that corner, we hyperlink the report to that. So all I do, a dumb manager type guy, is I open up the CAD with limited access because the guys know not to let Jay loose in a CAD drawing. But I get on there and I look at that hyperlink and I can answer the question. We talk about that in the business workshop sometime. But back to our picture there, there's no documentation. What operations installed? That's what the field guys did. What the field guys do? Forget the tire? Oops. Got the rope on, boss. You told me to hang the rope. I got the rope, but where's the tire? Then how was the customer billed? I love that one, right? Now we could talk also sometime about T&M versus lump sum. Because if you're on time and materials, that's what he's going to get billed. Lump sum, it will not be that because you're doing A for dollars B. How the help desk supported it. Well, we don't have help desk in our business, but we do have secretaries and junior surveyors are going to take that phone call before it comes up to Trent and I to try to resolve it. Then, of course, we're right back to the last one. Look what we really wanted. Did we get it? The answer is no. And there is the client relationship. Okay? Fun, joke, ha, 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 but guess what? A lot of truth to it. The client's perspective, what he wants and needs. The first line is from my dear old mother. She said, listen twice as much as you talk. The good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Don't forget the proportion, was Frances Seymour's advice to her son. The idea being that's also the way you want to talk to your clients. Why are you talking? Why are you telling them about your equipment and tell them about this and that? Why don't you hear what they want, quantify that, and then start selling them on why your company's the best, you're the best surveyor in that area, and so on. Develop a relationship. Show that you are a problem solver. Again, remember, I'm telling you on the other side of the table what they think. The next phrase I've coined in my company since 1984, I say, J. Seymour, is solution-oriented thinking in my approach to your problems. You give me the problem, I'll solve it. Everything can be taken care of with time and money. If he's got enough money, I got enough time, and we're going to get together and make a contract. And that's the good news, bad news. Have you ever heard that phrase, anybody? You just got the proposal. You just won the job. It's good news and bad news, right? What's the good news? You got the job. What's the bad news? You're the cheapest one. Oops. Some of you aren't in management yet. You'll enjoy that in a few years down the road. Now, there's a phrase we throw around a lot. You should take out of your vocabulary when you're dealing with especially attorneys. When you say you're on time and on budget, because he does not care about your budget. He cares that you delivered it on the time you said you were going to do it. Now, Trent, I know you've done that because I did it many times. I tell the client, I'm on time and on budget. Take the budget out. They don't care. All right? Good advice. Now let's talk a little bit about probative questions. I am pretty good at marketing and business development and telephone skills. One of the first things that I do is when you've identified them and you say, how did you get my name and so on, and start a rapport, slow down the conversation. Because the first thing they say is, I need an ALTA survey, and when can you get it for me, and how much will it be? Whoa, cowboy, let's hear about where you are, what it is. Do you have a title report? Then you ask all those questions. What you want to do in a sales presentation, which we as surveyors historically are not good salespeople, is ask them questions that they have to answer you back. Turn the tables. They're always coming at you. Now you turn it around to them. And if they say, I don't have a title report, say, do you have a title officer? I'll be glad to contact him for you and get that information. Well, I haven't selected you yet, Trent. That's okay. I'll call and get the title report. You're going to need it for whatever surveyor you use. Well, all of a sudden the other end of the phone goes, he's actually trying to solve a problem for me. And he can't really quantify it till he gets that in. Trent, you're a good surveyor. I like that. Let's keep going. Now, here's one you have to think about. Are you representing the buyer or the seller? And which one, as a surveyor, do we want to work for? Well, the answer, since most of you, and again, as Trent says, it's nice when I'm working the room, we can see the faces and Steve goes, I got it. You want to work for the seller because they own the dirt, the wood, and the concrete. They have a vested interest in the deal. The buyer is a hotshot that showed up, opened up escrow, put $10,000 to $1 million into an escrow account, and wants to buy a piece of property. The most people that fail to close an escrow are the buyers, not the sellers. The seller has the widget. They have something to sell. The buyer just has a pile of money. I prefer, if I can, to do the seller. Also because when he sells, he's probably going to want to go buy somewhere else. While the buyer might be out of money, and that's his one deal. But he could also be a big developer who's going to buy several things. So you have to always quantify where you are, see who the people are, and see if you can get more business out of them. Timeline for delivery. That is the number one thing you should ask early in the call. When do you need the ALTA survey? Monday. Whoa, it's a little short. I thought you got a 60-day escrow. Well, I did, but I didn't know what an ALTA survey was, and attorney told me to call you. So maybe you can deliver on a short timeline. Maybe you can't. Has anybody on the phone ever been to the fabulous Forum in Inglewood, California? The original home of the Lakers? It's a round building. Just a simple round building. I worked for a company that built that, Engineering Service Corporation. And I used to work 410s, and on a Thursday night, I got a call from an architect in Paris. I don't even know what day or time it was for him, but I was about ready to go out for the weekend. He says, I need an ALTA survey of the Forum, and I need it by Monday morning. I said, tell me more. Well, I found out later on that a guy named Wayne Gretzky came to the Kings, who actually owned the Forum at the time. And because he was coming in as a player, he was also a good business person, was going to get ownership in the Forum and the Kings, and needed to know where all that was, thus the need for an ALTA survey. I put 4 survey crews out Saturday and Sunday. We already built it. We knew what it was. It was a circle. We counted parking stalls and drew it up. And this was 1988, folks. Anybody want to guess how much money I got for that survey? Sound of silence. $85,000. But Gretzky got, I think, whatever, $16 million to sign a contract. So again, being a good business person. Now, here's something that's not going to roll good with all of you, but you know what? That's why you hear speakers. I'd rather you all were a business person first and a surveyor second. Because if you're not a good business person, you won't be around next year to show me how good a surveyor you are. Change your focus. Business oriented first, then show the world what a good surveyor you are. I knew on that phone those guys needed that, and they needed it badly. So I said, who else are you going to call? He says, I've already called 4 other companies. I said, here's our wiring instructions. The accountant was still there. He gave him the wiring instructions. Remember, this is in the late 80s, so money moved a little differently. But that accountant was a nice young Asian guy, and he was the happiest man in the world because he knew how much time I was going to have to put in between that time Thursday night and Monday morning, and I could not spend $85,000 in billable time. So, yeah, Jay, yeah, we got to make some money. I said, yes, we will. And yes, the owner of the company is very happy with me Monday morning. So you need to understand the timeline for delivery. You may be able to jump through all those hoops and understand if nobody else can do it, and you have the inside track, you're the one that should do it, and elevate your price. It's not a $20,000 ALTA anymore, okay? Now here's something most of us forget. Your title report has to be 6 months or newer to close escrow. Get title insurance and get a lender's approval. You cannot do a 7-month, 1 year, 5-year-old title report. It won't work. So again, you show this information to that person who called you and say, look, I know what you really need. You need to have this right now. I don't have that. You need to get it. Give me your title officer. I'll walk him through it. We'll do this. Okay, define the number of participants involved. What does that mean, Jay? I got a slide coming up that will tell that very clearly. I think it's the next one. So let's hold off on that. Most importantly, how many attorneys are involved in the transaction? Why, Jay? Because each one needs copies of your survey, changes when you have them. Their staff is going to analyze it and send it back to you with questions, comments, insertions, and deletions. Now, again, this is not a business seminar, but one of the things I do is I phase my contract that says if you want to do all these changes to 7 sets of attorneys, it's all T&M outside the scope of my original contract. Now, let's look at how bad a survey can be. I was representing the seller. The seller was in Los Angeles, California. The buyer was in New York. Title was coming out of Dallas, Texas. The escrow was in Phoenix. The seller's attorneys were in Los Angeles, Kansas City, and Atlanta. The buyer's attorney was in Salem and Oklahoma City. And during the time of my survey, unbeknown to me, there were 3 LLCs formed, with each having their own attorneys and escrow accounts, above and beyond everything listed above. My property was encumbered by state highway, California highway, and federal highway, US 101, off-ramps. There was a light rail station underground, 6 floors of underground parking, and 50 retail stores with 11 points of ingress egress. Can it get any harder than this? Talk about trying to please a lot of people. Okay. We won't talk about dollars or deliveries, but the main thing I will tell you is a 28-page, 3-dimensional color ALTA survey. Very nice. Do you see how bad it can get and why I need to know the participants? What is the deal? Is it a 7-Eleven on a corner lot and all I have is a Southland Corporation and we're done? Or is it a shopping center that has 4 or 5 or 6 anchors or majors and all their people involved and their attorneys and so on? That's where it kind of gets out of hand. How we doing, Trent? Okay? Okay. Okay, here's what I say. This is your plan. Know your state requirements for contracts. California has a full section of the PELS Act on contracts in the state law. Now, you have to do that and more. Now, let's pause for a moment. You understand ALTA standards are called the minimum standards for an ALTA survey. Minimum. Same thing here. I have minimum standards of state law of my contract. Trent, do you have them in Nevada?
We do as well, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Pretty generic, straightforward stuff, but
Yeah,
Okay.
now it's mandated to have a written contract before you even work. That actually did not be the case before. So,
Okay.
before, so.
Now in California, the state board tells me, and I'm very good friends with the executive director, good on the good side of him. I've never had a case brought against me. He tells me over and over again, the number one case brought against surveyors is violation of contract. Non-existence of it, failure to deliver, specifications in the contract not performed, and so on. I would have thought it'd been bad monuments or something else. It's contracts. All right, let's see here. Identify early in the call if they're shopping around. Decide if you want to play their game. Now, I tell you this I'm trying to change the tone to the people who own companies or in high management. You have to make that decision. If they're just shopping around, what's your price? Trent, I'll tell you, use Jay Seymour. Tell them to call Jay Seymour in Redondo Beach, and I'll give them a price for a survey even in Nevada. Because all they're doing is looking for a number. When they find that number, they're done. But I have found that I've usually been the most expensive survey on everything I've done, and I sell myself and my services and my deliverables, and that's how I get the higher price. Again, I like to talk about this a lot in the business workshop, but the idea being they can always find somebody that will do it cheaper, always. So if you know that early in the call, say, you know what, I don't play this game. Now, Trent, you're going to like this one. You'll get the call. Give me a ballpark price. You ever heard that one? Now, you are in the town that's got one of the two best, beautiful new football stadiums, right? Home of the Oakland, they went back to Oakland. Oh, the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Okay, so you got a beautiful stadium there. So the next time someone asks you, give me a ballpark, you say, are we talking a Little League field or a Major League Baseball or the beloved Oakland's new stadium, or excuse me, the Las Vegas Raiders? And you have fun with the clients because you realize how dumb that question they said to ballpark. What the hell does that mean? You want to say 1,000 to $250,000, my Hollywood survey? Again, the people on the other front, they kind of laugh and say, well, I don't even know what an ALT is. Why do I need it? Tell me. You walk them through it. It kind of makes sense. Now, what is your current workload, your knowledge of the area, your client history? This is for you owners and managers. What good is it to take another ALTA survey from the guy that owes you for the last 3? Okay? It doesn't say bank on my forehead. It says professional land surveyor. I can't keep carrying these people on the books. This seems funny, but you need to do it. When you get busy, you forget that. And then you forget that because the developer is now hidden between an LLC and something else, and you didn't realize that's what it was till you enter into the contract and see the billing address is the same address of the guy that owes you money. Oops. Yeah. Review a title report, backup documents, standards and specifications of the deal. Qualify, quantify, identify. I have to say this over and over again. You're trying to catch a bullet in your teeth. The problem with that is if you don't have good dental insurance, you're in trouble. If you don't catch it in your teeth, you die. Okay, so what I try to share with everyone is understand what you're doing, what am I getting into, and if I can make money. Elements of a contract, I just put the slide in there. We don't need to spend much time on that. That's California isms. The main thing is we have to tell the client how he can get out of the contract as well as us. And that's the one that's almost always missed by California surveyors. But that's in the law. Those 5 points are just straight out of the law. Trent, you want to make sure you're looking at yours. Always include everything in your state contract and then expand from that. But I will quote Article 5 of 8759 in my contract. So the client knows I know the law. And it's really important when you're dealing with the attorney. He says, whoa, Trent and Jay really know what's going on here. So that's important. I put in a slide here. This is My Way, PLC, Professional Land Consultants. It's just some things that you need to take a look at. I believe it's important to do inclusions and exclusions to your contract. If I have a title report that's 2 years old and no backup documents, I say that in my proposal. That upon receipt of a new title report and the associated backup documents, we will stop the lump sum phase 1, renegotiate, or go T&M until we get back on contract. You've got to put in the contract what you are excluding. If you say ALTA to this title report, you're screwed. You got to be careful about what you say. Trent, in California, we have a CLSA contract. Is there a NALS contract? Have you guys developed that?
We do not have one, no.
You might want to put that on your tickler file. That's a good thing to do. That gets everybody on the same page. I like that.
I do like that.
Also have a J contract, but it's also nice to have that. And then to lighten the moment here for a moment, let everybody take a deep breath. Just tell me which two you want. Funny but good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants cheap and fast, right? No. Everybody wants, you see, it's just fun. And I on occasion will send this slide to some potential clients. What the hell do I have to lose? I'm not a phone call. Like Trent, you just click it on your attachment, send it out and say, have a nice day, love Jay. May get the job, may not get the job.
That needs to go in that needs to go in the email signatures. Nice little
big bold.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
That's a good one.
I put on here the art of negotiation, the game plan. Again, it's just some things I'd like you to take a look at, think about it. For those of you that ever work for a large company, that's civil engineers, land surveyors, planners, maybe architectural, an inbound call on an ALTA survey, if you qualify it, may be more business for the rest of the company. A guy wants an ALTA on a shopping center, yet he's putting the options on the surrounding 3 lands. We ought to put the planners and the engineers involved with that, because you may get more work than just the ALTA survey. And I say that because in 1987, I was asked to do an ALTA survey on a pile of dirt out by Palm Springs on the north side of the 10 freeway. Anybody that's been to Palm Springs knows everything's built on the south side of the freeway. And they had the option on about 8 or 9 sections of land. I thought, wow, it's kind of weird. Well, when I got into it deeper, it was the home builder in Phoenix for the retired people. Who's that?
Sun City. Sun City.
Yeah, the Sun City. Del Webb.
Del Webb.
Okay.
Sun City. Yep, got it.
So when I got to talking to him and got by the person who was just talking and got to the real people, I knew that it was Del Webb. So I went to the owner of my company and I said, look, boss, they want the ALTA survey and the engineering design survey for free. But they'll give us a contract to build 22,000 homes and the full engineering. My boss said no. I said, you're going to throw away an $8,000, $9,000 dirt, right? ALTA survey and just fly it and do some edge conditions. He goes, no, not giving it for free. I don't care who it is. I said, it's Del Webb. They build in Phoenix and Vegas, tens of thousands of homes. Boss said no. But you see how if you would have asked the probing questions like I did and gone to a boss that would have okayed that, look how much more work we have. They're still not built out. 30 years later, they're still building the Del Webb communities. That would have been 30 years worth of business, all by an up call that says, let's do an ALTA survey. And this is for my flatland people and all my beloved Kansas people. Most of my best memories comes from some old dirt road. I love that. I love that picture. And I talk about it a lot because take about the middle of memories and look straight ahead at those trees. All the surveyors in Kansas are surveying in June, July, and August when you can't see through the trees. But that's when the call comes in, right? So I can't tell them, can I wait till November when there's no damn trees? And in Kansas, I can see from the northeast corner to the southwest corner of any given mile. Now, Jay, we need it surveyed right now in June. So I get to see the chiggers, mosquitoes, the snakes, run through the creek and everything to give the topo that I could have done 1/10 of the time in the winter months. But that's my favorite picture. All of you have your favorite picture. My roots are in boots and field work. My career since 1981 has been in a coat and tie. But I love going back to the dirt. Here's a slide I put in for you. I think one of the problems we have with most companies is we spend a lot of time, money, energy, and effort on proposals and don't get them. If I ask Trent, how many jobs did you bid on last year and lose? He may or may not be able to give me that answer. Then my next probative question was, how many jobs did you bid on that were construction staking, ALTAs, and so on? You need to break all this out. So when you sit down at the end of the year, take a deep breath, and you're waiting for Santa to come, you sit on his lap at the mall and you ordered business for next year. The idea being, how and what did you bid on? How and what did you lose? What did you gain? Learn from your experiences. That is so very important. Sorry about that. Now, I put on here dedication of all staff to marketing and business development. Too many companies think that the marketing business development guys are the coat and tie guys. They're the ones that get to go play golf and go to the golfing events and down to the luncheons and to the Raider games and all that stuff. But the reality is my best marketer are my field crews. Oops. Yeah. They're driving around. They see signs for sale. I told all my crews, take pictures of that sign. For information on this property, call this number. Because it may be vacant now, but it's probably going to be developed. And Trent, you need to look all around that new stadium. What is available that's vacant? It's popping. You know that. And the other place you learn that is to go to your local cities and counties and see what's going into planning. Because at planning, they may not have a surveyor yet. They may not have a civil engineer yet. Usually they do, but guess what? They may be mad at the surveyor because he did a terrible boundary survey and ready to dump him and give the engineering and construction staking to somebody else. You're amazed at where sources come from. And I've got a slide coming up in a minute that kind of drives it home. This one is one of my favorite that I developed, and I stole this from my fellow civil engineers. They have a revision block on curb and gutter, sewer, water plans, right? Revision 1, wrong inverts. Revision 2, redid the stationing. Revision 3, the city didn't like my plans. Revision 4, I wrote them over, right? Revision blocks. I learned to put a revision block on my ALTA surveys, and here's why. The real bad slide I showed you took 9 issuance of the survey before they finally closed escrow. 9. So here you say date of original issuance. Put a date in there. Last field inspection. Folks, this is the most important line in an ALTA survey. When is the last time I was out there? I've actually gone back to a survey where they built a little 10 by 10 building and ran 1-foot cable coax into the building. And when my party chief touched the door of that building, he could feel the vibration and hear the humming. That was not there the last time we did a survey. Is that an encroachment to title? Did it have a permit? Was it permitted at the governmental agency to even be built? And we only caught it because we're going through the final stages of the walkthrough of the survey. Last field inspection will constantly be changing. Then the issuance number, and here's why. I get a phone call from David Bush at some law firm in downtown LA. And he goes, I have a copy of your survey. The first thing I ask is, what issuance? He goes, 3. I said, great, I'm on 8. Who are you? Well, I'm a big attorney. I said, well, guess what, big attorney? Here's what we need to do next. Would you have your accounting people call my accounting people and send me $5,000 retainer, and I'll give you as many copies as you want after I've got approval of the client that I have a contract with. Watch the sound of silence, and I'll get back to you later, and the call is over, and he does not get his copy. Otherwise, it's like Trent and I. At 4:50, we have Kinko's and FedEx Express on our head. And we're running all these copies to send them out. Remember I said 28 pages of color? Can you imagine how many times I had to keep sending out all these copies because somebody wanted a copy? Issuance number drove it home. Also, when you do your contract, you put all the people that will receive a copy of my survey in the contract. If you're not 1 through 7, see ya. Send money, I'll send you pictures. Okay? Very good thing. That, my friend, is worth its price of the attendance. Oh, we didn't charge tonight, did we? All right, this will be for Trent. This was my calendar for 2014, the year I was president-elect for my state association, and I had to see 22 chapters by Thanksgiving. So there's all the dates of going through them, and my month, of course, would race off each month. The new month would show up. That was also the year, Trent, you might remember I had cancer surgery, was down for about 6 months, but
Exactly.
Yep. I still got all my chapters in. I still have that in the garage, too. That's one of my favorite boards. People say, why do you have whiteboards, Jay? I said, well, yeah, you got them in your iPhone, your Galaxy, your Outlook and everything. But put a whiteboard on the office. It ties the field and the office guys together. Everybody sees what's going on. If there's one thing I can change, and I only got a few more years left in my life doing this surveying, is get the field and office to be friends. Because right now, they usually are not. Mainly because the office guys go to the field with one of these on, with a white hard hat that you have to wear sunglasses to look at, and an orange vest that's folded with the fold lines to try to tell a field guy what to do. Okay? Idea being whiteboards are a good thing. Old school. Now this board, if you can see it clearly, I've got job number, ALTA, client name, authorization to proceed, ATP, preliminary title report, docs, research. I scan this board Again, this goes back way before electronics, but I can look very quickly and say, guess what? I'm behind in getting my title report. I'm behind in getting my docs. And then over at the right side, the due date. How can I hit that if I'm waiting on docs and that date's about 3 days away? It lets everybody see graphically exactly where you are. More importantly, Trent, let your clients come in and see this. They love it. Yeah, you can give them the website suite where the client can come in and look at things, but let them come in and see this at your office. They know you're working on it because things are erased, things are different colored pens and stuff. There's something to be said for old school. I like that. I have a couple fun ones here. Everybody know who these guys are? Now, I guarantee you've not seen the next slide, but let's take a look at this one for a minute. Got all the presidents. Yeah, you see the tripod up on top. They're actually cleaning the heads in this particular picture. I like this. Some guy sent this to me. Now, this is South Dakota looking north, right? Looking towards Canada. Everybody say yes, because it is. Okay. Jen, you're not saying yes. I see Jen. There she is. There she is. But this is what Canada sees. Hey, you got to love that, guys. Like I said, you've never seen that one. Okay. This is a slide I put in for you just to get an understanding of what is going on, how to get business, how to retain business, and just read how it breaks down. Thing you might want to take a look at, Trent, and anybody else on the line who has a business or you're in management, you need to spend 12 to 15% of your gross revenues on marketing business development. Most companies do not. Straight up, they don't. Little things like, do your party chiefs have business cards? Most don't. Best investment. Out on a construction job, you're taking curb and gutter. There's an electrician over there, there's a grading contractor, and so on and so on. Hand out those cards. Cards are cheap. But more importantly, folks, it makes your party chief feel a little better that he's got cards, just like the guys in the office. Okay? Good stuff. Now, this is for all of you who want to know how to market. This is a sign that's about 5 feet wide and about 6 feet high as you're walking into a big building. Now, look very closely. We have Ensemble Real Estate Solutions. We have Cushman Wakefield. Everybody heard of Cushman Wakefield? They're all over the country, all 50 states. And then Premier Business Centers Executive Suites. Now, what can I get out of these three names? Ensemble Real Estate Solutions is a real estate developer in Long Beach, California. I called, ran through a few things, a lot of phone calls, but I at least got my name out there to these people, and we actually got a job from them, from just this sign. Cushman and Wakefield is like General Motors. They're huge, they're all over everywhere, but when you dial that 1400 number, I say, I'm looking at your sign at 444 Ocean Boulevard, downtown Long Beach, California. Who do I need to talk to? The more aggressive and assertive you are on a phone call to the gatekeeper, the receptionist, and or secretary, they'll think you're an important person. Oh, the other thing I've learned to do, Trent, is I say, hi, this is Jay Seymour from Professional Land Consultants. I need to speak to the person in charge of this property. Watch how quickly I get through all those, please hold, go to these people. Because I said, I need to speak to them. It's a good phone skill. Now, the bottom one's the one I've kind of changed over the years. Some of you online may have a scanner. You know, the big thing right now for space planners and planners in general is what does the inside of a building actually look like? For those of you who lived in the country that has this thing called snow and 10 degrees below zero, let's go out and scan a parking lot or go inside to the 3rd floor of a building and scan that. Which one do you think your crew chief would like to do? And by the way, tell them to take the hat off and clean up a little bit when they're inside, okay? But the bottom line is there's a new market, a new revenue stream for us surveyors, scanning inside, okay? And I'm on some Facebook page of a guy that is talking about he's making a living off scanning office spaces now. He says, I haven't got dirty for a year. Trent.
Yeah, I noticed you were talking with him. So I've actually reached out to him to try to get him on here for Mentoring Mondays. But
Paul?
Yeah. So if you happen to talk to him again, we'll try to get him on here because
I'll be glad to.
Yeah, that's one of our subjects that I'd like to talk about, just like you brought up. So,
Well, for you folks, he's actually 4 years older than me. And Paul Cook is probably one of the premier surveyors. His father and grandfather had one of the biggest companies in LA, way established. His number is, I think, 4428 or 4268.
yeah,
Pretty low number.
Yep.
And I've been doing it a long time. And I laughed and sent him a post today saying, look, an old dog can learn new tricks. He goes, Jay, I don't like going up hills and I don't like hot temperatures anymore. So it just shows you that our paradigm is changing. We have to think about this. And there's a perfect example of how you find that. Let's see. Okay, now I've got something in here, a phrase you all need to learn if you do any kind of business development, ABC. Always be closing. Always be closing every phone call you make. When I call my client and say, I'm ready to deliver this, I say, what are you doing next week? What's your next project? Ask the question. Because if I don't ask him and he gets busy or he goes on vacation, his assistant will pick another surveyor and not me. Always ask the question, what's next? I put on here handwritten notes. Every invoice I ever sent out, I put a handwritten note on it. Thanks for the business, Trent. What's coming up next? Hope your daughter is successful in volleyball this season. Jay. Handwrite it right on the invoice. Yes, you do a lot of invoices. Yes, you're going to blow 4 or 5 hours doing this a month. But guess what? It separates you from everybody else. Support your local schools, sports activities, and so on. Marketing again. A big thing here in California, baseball fields. They have those little banners, 1, 2, 4 foot banners. You want to see your company name out there in center field. Sports programs are a good thing. Also, don't forget things like musicals and plays, things inside the school. They have those little bitty paper programs. They want a token $10 or $20 advertising block. Buy a whole damn page for $80. Okay? Signs on cars and trucks, we talked about that. Business cards for your field guys. Every member of the team is on marketing. That's something you need to always do. Okay, a couple more here. I think we're doing okay.
Yeah,
What does a review of your client list reveal? Maintain a detailed accounting system and tracking system. Avoid limiting your workload to 1 to 3 sources. Folks, we're going to come out of this mess. We're going to have a good time. Then we're going to fall again. Then there's going to be another setback. Then the market will take up again and we'll come down again. I think we've had 17 to 20 recessions in my career. It's going to happen. If you're the single family home king of Las Vegas and money dries up, which it will, we got low interest rates now, but they'll be 6, 7, 8%, 4 or 5 years down the road. And that market will contract. Unless your developer is a big developer, he'll be out of the business. And if single family is your only source of revenue, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. ALTA surveys, the industrial ALTAs, loans come up every 7 to 10 years, period. I don't care if it's a General Motors plant or anything else. They're constantly rolling them over. So get into that marketplace. Your commercial, that's at the marketplace, whatever it will take. But industrial is something a lot of people don't pay attention to. I put in here a slide on hourly rate schedule. Now, I didn't think I needed to tell this, but I get a shocked look whenever I'm in a room. You realize every time you bid on a public sector job, your hourly rate schedule is now public information. You do realize that, right? People go, oh, my hourly rate's secret. Nobody knows it. No. If you've ever done a city, county, state, or federal project, your hourly rate schedule is there. Okay? Now, Trent, what you want to remember in the bad times when you have to cut back, don't lower your hourly rate. Just discount your fee at the end of the billing cycle. Because if you lower your hourly rate, you can never bring it back up to where you was except over increments. A lot of guys learned that in 2008, 2009, where they cut their hourly rate 20, 30, 40%. They're having a hard time jumping it back up because clients say, why would I give you 20% more this year? Last year you charged this much. Your cost didn't go up that much in 1 year. Don't cut your hourly rate. It's already out for publication anyway. Let's see here. Here's something that we kind of overlook. Field personnel rates, travel time, reimbursements, and outside consultants. I put a guideline here because a lot of people don't look at that. You pay time and a half to your people, but you have to bill 165% to cover your costs to administer that time and a half for your people. Travel time, at least 85%. You want 100%, but most contractors won't do that. They pay you when you arrive. They may pay one way, but try to at least ask for 100% on the back way or settle for 85. It's negotiable. Reimbursement costs used to be cost plus 10, cost plus 20. It's cost plus 30 now. That's the new going rate. Your consultants, if you bring in an aerial mapper or a geologist or a soils engineer, used to be cost 10. Now the marketplace all across the country that I've been able to tabulate this, and this stuff's about 2 years old, is cost plus 20. So these are things to take a look at. We are doing it a little different. This one is very important, and I want to start the one, my mouse, did that highlight that or? Meet only if you can eat. Now think about this. If you have a meeting at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you are burning the golden hours, the hours you're supposed to be making money. So don't have those kind of meetings. Have breakfast, lunch, dinner meetings, out of production. You will be amazed at the end of the year if you look at how much time you've wasted on meetings, getting up to speed, all those corny phrases we say. Not good. Do it this way. The commander of NORAD, I think he's a 4-star general for the Air Force. He has a meeting. Everyone stands and holds your day timer here. And the meeting's over in 30 minutes and you're gone. And he does it like theater of the round. He just spins around talking to the whole room. Now that's a little strong, but he's got 4 stars on his shoulder. He can do just about anything he wants. But it showed me again, he doesn't like to have meetings just to have meetings. And I've worked for a big corporation that has a meeting on Monday to decide when the meeting on Wednesday is going to be. Stop the madness, okay? Some other things on there, but we want to keep moving. Now, here's one. Every document you send out, every document needs a certification. In California, we can't use the word certification. It's against the law for us. And I cited in there the 67 and the 8700 statutes for us Californians. I don't know if you have that in Nevada or any of your other states, but you need to look at that. But even something as simple as a site plan or a legal description or any document you send out has to say what you did, how you did it, to what, there's that issuance date and so on, signed and sealed. Too many people send things out and then it gets the beauty of CAD and PDFs. All of a sudden in the old days, we signed everything in blue ink because if you made a copy, it was black. Today, with PDFs and Blue Beams and all these other programs, I can cannibalize anything and send it out. I can actually cut and paste and put things in. So you want to be very careful. Always certify everything you do. Please, please, please. Remove the doubt. Attorneys, in case you haven't heard this stat, there are 10,000 attorneys for every one surveyor in the United States. That's not a fair fight, okay? They're coming after us. I like to be ready. I told you exactly what I was doing. Don't tell me because there it is. And I certified to it, California style. Because remember, you only have one job. Right? I mean, how hard could it be to spell stop? Of course, I have a good friend who works in t-shirts. I asked him to send me that one. He says, we burned them all. It felt so stupid. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have that t-shirt in my collection? Asia. Okay. Now I have something here that I think is very important for us to understand as the business side. 80% of all the sales made in America today are after the 5th contact with the same prospect. 48% of the salesmen quit after the 1st. 25% stop after the 2nd. 10% of the salesmen continue to make calls. 10% of the salesmen make 80% of all the sales in America. How many times we send out a proposal and don't even follow up on it? How many times do you send out a proposal and follow up and they say, you didn't get it? What I do then, Trent, is I tell them, thank you. And the other end of the phone says, you're thanking me for not giving you the work? I said, yes. Would you please share with me a couple moments what I can do to make it better next time? More than likely, they'll tell you. And I've gotten work after finishing 2nd a couple of times by simply calling and saying, thank you for not picking me. After a while, he goes, Jay, are you kidding? I said, well, just give me a job and we won't have to go through this heartache anymore. You see, it's personal relationships, it's communication, it's getting not quite so serious on yourself. But how many times do you get busy and you don't follow up on the thing you put out? You remember the earlier slide, how much time did you spend doing that proposal to not follow up? We're not Domino's. Can I take your order? Can I take your order? They're not going to call you and say that, right? They're going to maybe send the contract back, or maybe they call you and say, you can have it if you do this and this. It's either yes or no. Michael Palomari, probably one of the premier surveyor expert witnesses in the country, has some articles in American Surveyor. He and I are in total agreement on phasing, lump sum versus time and materials. Time and materials, you're locked into an exact amount. Phasing and lump sum, if you do it right, you can make more money. Also on time and materials, you submit your hourly rate schedule, which is about this long. You have a one-man, two-man, three-man, and a one-man scanner, and a one-man GPS, and a one-man RTK and everything. Guess what the client's going to pick? The lowest hourly rate on each one of those. Put down 4 CAD operators, which is going to pick the lowest one. You go, yeah, but I sent my best one. He goes, I don't care. It tends to get into a problem of justifying how you got to where you are. Now, please believe me when I tell you, if I get a room full of surveyors, it's not even 50-50 on this. Most think time material is the answer. But I can tell you through experience and also being an expert witness in court, the contract is a better way to go because the judge says, look, you said you do A, B, and C and deliver by D for E money. There's no ambiguity. That's a decision you guys have to figure for yourself. I love this one. A lot of truth there, folks. I'm not getting into a religious thing, but just think about it. My last 2 slides. This is mine. If you want to get online to California Land Surveyors Association, we have a magazine called Cal Surveyor, issue 163, page 22. This is yours truly in 2010. I had a little spot under my eye that turned into that mess. My nose was 63 stitches up into my nasal cavity. That one about got me. That was pretty serious. And if you look at the bottom picture, that's what it started with. And then they expanded, ripped me open, laid the nose open, and went up top. I tell you this, folks, because we are an outside sport. Sun is not the only reason you get skin cancer, but it accelerates if you have the possibility to have skin cancer. Go get checked. My good friend David Bush there on the screen has heard me say this for years. He got checked. He had a problem. I've been doing this since 2010, and I will continue to do it as long as someone comes up and says, Jay, because of this, I was diagnosed. Thank you. And I'm going to keep on doing it. And the last one is POPs. This is LS20 in Kansas, LS913 in Missouri. He passed in 1984. Been gone a long time. To those surveyors that put down footsteps for us to follow, thanks for your time. Dedication to the profession today. Now let's make a difference in our profession, help the next generation, which is exactly what Trent's doing with this program and why me and Steve Parrish, all of us old goats are helping him because we're trying to give back to something that was good to us. Until we meet again, travel safe. God bless you. Be safe. And we'll do it again sometime live. It's yours, Trent.
You're the best. That is awesome. You guys got questions? We can like pause, right? We can clap, but
I know, right?
So,
standing ovation. Wow.
Exactly. A couple of things in the chat. Just thanks, Jay. Thanks.
Yes.
Awesome presentation. Good advice for the guys and the girls. So you guys can kind of unmute yourself, and if you got questions, you can ask Jay, and we'll have to do another topic. I'd love to hear you, Jay. Passionate as well. So
thank you. You're too quiet. Somebody take a shot at me.
I know. Where is everybody?
Ah, come on.
All right, I
got dressed up for nothing. Here we go.
Oh, there we go. Sean's going to talk.
Go, Sean.
From the East Coast. I want to get my PS eventually, but I want to start out with my LSIT, and I've been studying for that. And what are some key takeaways that you would give to somebody studying for this test as far as the ALTA goes? Like what basic things?
Very good question, Sean. I'll answer that the way I do out here in California.
Okay.
Learn just the high points of what the ALTA standards are. It's a national standard. It has a standards and an optional table A. Now, this is very important because one question I've seen in the past is optional table A says this, but the standards say that. Which prevails? Because they're not supposed to bump into each other, but they do sometimes. The standards will always prevail over optional table A because of the word optional.
Okay.
Standards are the standards. You need to understand on an ALTA survey, the only reason you're doing it is conflicts in title. A boundary may or may not address that. A topographic survey never addresses that. An ALTA survey takes the paper, legal document, and you as a surveyor put that on the ground and address the conflicts. Conflicts can be easements, encroachments, ingress, egress, overhead power. There's a lot of things that pop in. So it's understanding what it is. It's just an insurance policy.
Okay.
And I do a full 8-hour on ALTA's much deep dive. One thing you need to remember is the title insurance does not insure title. Listen, title insurance does not insure title because the third standard disclaimer on a given title report says whatever a good and accurate survey would disclose.
Okay.
So all the title insurance does, let's say a fence line is in the property 2 feet. You show it on your ALTA survey. They do what's called an exception to title over this problem and put that in the title insurance and then charge either the buyer or the seller, depending on the escrow instructions, a fee to insure over this problem.
Okay.
So all they're doing is going like this. And I have fought with title for a better part of 50 years. I said, what in the hell do you guys do? Well, if you're a good surveyor, you would tell me about this. So you have to understand that concept.
Okay.
The other thing is just read the standards and understand what they're all about, especially the new ones, because it just takes you right through it step by step. Hope that helps you.
Yeah, it does. It's been some years since I've had to study this. You know, I work doing transportation engineering, so I'm a transportation surveyor.
Okay.
So it's been about 15 years since, you know, I was a greenhorn and working on ALTA survey, and I'd forgotten really all about it. So that's why I'm here today learning about it.
Good luck to you. If you ever have questions, you got my email. Send me an email. We'll talk.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Jay, just to mention, Kent is available now. He's very accessible. I've called him before and just talked about questions. I know he has stepped back from his role working with Schneider, but he still is running ALTA standards and pressing for the next release.
Good man. Tell him hi for him next time you talk.
Yeah.
Hey, 1 second, Bo, and then I'll let you jump in. Sean, so I'll send you. I think you're new this week, right? You haven't been on before. Okay. So I do a follow-up email after each one of these meetings, and it's a continuation all the way back to week 1. And so Rob, he's actually on mute. He's on the phone, but he's put together like an exam kind of plan.
Okay.
And so there'll be that that I'll send you, and then you can kind of go through each one of the drop boxes for each week. There'll be documents and stuff for each one of these. So now that you're logged in and I have your email, you'll be on each one of the emails going forward. But
Great.
so there'll be a lot of information even from the first few weeks.
Okay, a little light reading, huh?
That's it. A little light reading, a little videos to watch. So,
okay.
John, I do want to tell you one more bit of advice. Yes. We have found here in California that if you'll get a study buddy, somebody that you can bounce this off of, not the dog, not the wife, not somebody from work, but somebody that's going to set for the exam, bounce it back and forth and do that, the success rate is much higher for passing.
Okay.
Excellent advice.
Exactly. Go for it, Bo. Bo has a question.
Jay, I got a question for you. I've been seeing title reports that reference ALTA surveys done by, some surveyor as an exception. And a lot of times you try to get a copy from them. They don't even have a copy of the survey. What do you think of them doing this?
All right. You remember the opening statement, they don't insure title. Remember that part? What you want to do is, let's say item 6 of the title report you're using said J. Seymour 6551 showed this wall. Now, 2 things happen. When you get out there, there's no wall. And secondly, title cannot give you the copy of the survey. And J. Seymour now works for Orange County Surveyor, so he sold all of his records. You're kind of screwed, right? But what you want to do is item 6 on the title report on your ALTA survey, you say investigated, no field evidence of this wall, tried to contact the surveyor, out of business, ask the title company for additional information, love, Bo. You put it all right back on them, because until you do that, it's on you. You're doing the new ALTA survey. You're doing the update to their title report. You have to resolve that problem. So resolve it. Put it back in their court. I'm real good at this.
All right.
If you need some help, I'm available.
It seems like it's something they shouldn't even be putting in there in the first place, though.
You see this? It's the same approach at title. They did it that way, so they're going to continue to do it that way because it's in their title reports. Until you stop that madness, it's going to be in the next report. You can do it.
Sure.
You need help, I'll help you with the wording.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm ready for that one.
That's a great answer.
Start to grab a spot real quick and ask a question.
Go for it, Kenny.
All right. Done a lot of ALTAs in the past, many apartment complexes. And I can't remember, they always mention color of title, but I think on the title reports for ALTAs, are they 30 years or 50 years? Do you know right offhand?
What state are you in?
It'd be Kentucky. I think it's 30 right off, but taking out the 30 or 50 years, you get title reports.
Yes.
And say there's a water line, and within that water line easement that's you're reading through, there'll be another document, but it's not in the title report, which will clearly identify where that water line's at.
Yes.
Upon that discovery, and then you show it on the survey that this one document was not in the title report, everybody goes nuts at that point in time. And what's the best way to address those when you have a discovery within the title report that wasn't issued to you initially to show them that, hey, this does exist? You know,
you have two things, Kenny. First off, put it on your survey. Again, for simplicity, let's say item 4 said a document, but because you chained and found other documents, you want to tie that to item number 4 on your drawing, both in a narrative and graphically over in the picture. Then you want to contact the title officer and ask him to update the title report.
Right.
To reflect that, because remember, you and I certify, whatever words you use in your state, to a title report. Date, time, down to the hour. July 4th, 1999 at 6:05 p.m. issued by the title company, title report number. You want to then, like I told Bo there, you want to put it back on the title. Say, look, I did your job. I've showed it on my survey, reissue a new title report with this in it. Because until you do that, you now are taking the responsibility saying you chain title, you found it, but you don't want to do that. You are a surveyor. Let the title company earn their commission.
Okay.
Put blame where blame is due, not on you.
It's a great question, though. That's always a hot topic. That's a great question. So thanks for asking that one. Kat, you're quiet tonight.
I do have the one
Go
gentleman that hopped on here and asked for information on taking the LSIT or FS or all the multiple names for it. I can't remember your name, but if you're on Instagram, I have a collaborative post that has a ton of information, people with suggestions on what to study. It's not giving up answers or questions that are on the test, but it's like for the last 2 years, people that have just taken the test or say, make sure and study this, make sure and study that. And I can say from the ALTA minimum standards on specifications of measurements, things like that, utilizing GPS in ALTA surveys, questions on those, things like that. So if you're on Instagram, hop on there. There's an awesome community on there. Always welcome to help people out.
Any particular
call name? I'm geospatially opinionated with an underscore in between those two. It's my post, but there's been a lot of people that's added to that.
Will you send me an email with your handle, and then I'll just
I can. I'm not the most awesome on Zoom. This is like my second time on here.
No, you're fine. Just like a
I'll get it. I'll get in contact with you.
My daughter's already found it. You're good.
Okay, cool.
She'll send it to me.
Perfect. You're going to drop that in there for us, Trent?
I will. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I'll get it to him, and then he'll distribute it however. So
yeah, I'll put it in the email, the follow-up email tonight. So
perfect.
Yeah. Anytime you search on Instagram for geospace and you get halfway through the word, then
So you can type my name into the internet, which is, well, you know, Kenny Marhofer, and it'll pop up. So.
Got it. Good.
I appreciate your cinematography, my man.
It's daily.
That's awesome. Cool. We're missing Liam. We're missing Liam tonight too, Kat. No
I
math.
know. Yeah. I think this is a little bit more of a class for me, which is good. And another one of my coworkers joined tonight, actually Jacqueline Gaddis.
Oh, cool.
So she's on. Yep. And I texted her in the middle of it because we live about 45 minutes away from each other, but we work at the same office. And I said, our field crews do have business cards. I was, when you said that, Jay, I was like, we have those. They're kind of general. They do have a line on there where the crew chief can put his name in. So we do, because we just have 50 guys. So it's,
Cards are cheap. Put a name on it. Come on. What are you, $100 corporation? Come on, spend the money. Sorry. I give you part kudos, but I got to come down on the rest. Name, not handwritten in.
Yeah.
Okay. Sheesh.
Hey,
right.
all of our guys have business cards. Our trucks have logos. We're on it.
Us too. Yeah, the wrapping of the trucks is a big deal. Yep.
Right.
Our marketing is everywhere.
Yes. Go for it, Kenny.
I don't mean to talk so much, but I generally do. So it's something that nobody thinks about on business cards and all that. We have to like notify adjoiners, people if we're going to be there, give notice and everything. Mm-hmm. But when you go out to do a survey, door hangers, they are awesome. You can show proof that you've been to the door, knocked. Sometimes you do have to, reach over top of a fence. Hey, we tried to ask you, or they come to the door late. But it also leaves that tag on the door so they can contact you. Hey, you just surveyed my neighbor's yard, think you can do mine too. And you're pretty much already got it surveyed. Nice. And it leads into a lot of work, but the door hangers work well.
Good for you. Good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good advice. Anybody else got anything else? Nolan's quiet tonight too.
And late. I do have one question.
Got you unmuted.
Is there anything specific that I like to ask general questions? If an attorney wants you to change something, like your certification, they want it worded specific. Is there anything else that maybe you don't push back on ALTA that an attorney wants you to change? Whether it's you put deed versus measured, or you show the record bearings versus how you measured them and they don't like it. Is there something that you don't push back on per se?
Well, you asked a double barrel question there. First off, on the certification, you do not, let me repeat since you got here late, do not accept any certification from anyone. You use the 2016 standard certification only. No insertion, deletions, or modifications. Your answer to the client or the attorney, Nolan, is this. If I deviate from the ALTA certification, your client cannot obtain ALTA insurance. You can't close escrow. Do you want to do that? And he's going to say no. Okay. Now, Gary Kent once told me, and I like this, but it won't work in California, perhaps where you are, you can, is he has sometimes, not he personally, but has seen the case where the document, the ALTA down in the corner where you certify, is the standards. Then they will issue a letter on your company letterhead with whatever the attorney wants for certification. Now, here's where you have to be careful from a point of law. No, I'm not an attorney. I've just screwed up enough and did enough things wrong. The attorney's corrected me. Is if you tie that letter by job number, title report number into your letter, then that letter now becomes part of the ALTA survey and you're screwed. But if you want to, if you're backed in the corner and that attorney says you have to do this, you write him a letter saying, la, 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 love Nolan, and you're done. And he's going to come back and say, put the title report, and you say, we already had this conversation, cowboy. I can't do that. All right. Whole firm, we have to start acting professional. We talked about that earlier tonight. Are you just a technician or are you a professional? If you answer the question professionally, you say, I'm telling you what an ALTA survey looks like. You're not licensed. You don't know. Stop there. Now, you asked about the deed and stuff like that. Whatever an attorney wants me to add to a drawing, if it doesn't affect the intent of the legal that I'm taking from Schedule A, it's okay. Now that's another huge problem. Some states will take an ALTA Schedule A legal and then write a new legal based on your survey. That's another slippery slope, because now you're inserting a new legal description in the chain of title. And unless you're like Walt Robillard or my buddy down in Alabama, you cannot practice law and surveying because you probably don't have the law degree. Don't write legals that will change the intent and the chain of title. That's real serious. Even if it's something simple of 100.02 versus 100, don't change the legal description. The legal is what it is. Measured, record, found monumentation. That's what we do best, and we document that on the map. But don't write a new legal description, and sure as hell don't put it on the ALTA survey. Now, I've been asked a couple times to write a new legal. I'll do that again on letterhead, but it's not the ALTA survey. That exists for one and only one reason. A title report, Schedule A, put it on the ground, document it, sign it, you're done. That's an ALTA survey. Anything else is after that's done. Did that confuse you or get pretty good?
No, that's perfect. I mean, most of the time it comes up like you gave your case study where someone out of state is representing their client and they don't know state standards. So you go and you have to explain, well, yeah, like item number one's never checked, but in every state except for California, you have to check that, I'm pretty sure. So you have to explain what meets your state standards versus the ALTA survey to an attorney. So
now, another good advice for you, Nolan. I don't know where you are in the chain of command at your office, but all meetings, all conversations, emails, voicemails, text messages, smoke signals, whatever with the attorney, it's T&M, period. And my client's going to pay the bill to that attorney. If my client says no, then I'm through talking to the attorney. Then I ask him to send me a $5,000 retainer and we will continue. Your role in life is not to educate the attorney. Sorry. Guess what he charges? What car he drives, what watch is on his wrist, okay? Think, be a businessman first, surveyor second. I will be glad to answer your attorney's questions. Who's paying me? And as we say in sales, stop talking. If you continue to talk, you lose your ground, okay? You'll say, well, no, you're not answering my question. You didn't tell me if you're paying me or not. I don't need practice surveying, Nolan. That's a phrase I've used. You're welcome to use it. You tell the client, I don't need practice surveying. I got it down. I got it. If you want to pay me, we will talk surveying. If not, how about the Dodgers? How about Tampa Bay? Whatever you want to talk about. But you're through talking surveying. Businessman first, surveyor second. Deal? Or do you still need practice surveying?
Maybe
you've got it down there. Yeah, but you've got it down pretty good, don't you? Don't you want to be paid to do it now?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. And I'll tell everyone again, you can email me, and once you get the contact going with me, we will call. I will be glad to help all of you. And God forbid, if you ever get in a bind and you're getting in trouble, definitely call me and let me help you out. Let me help you get ready to go to court and give depositions and so on. Let me be that quiet expert witness behind and helping you. If you can pay me, fine. If not, I just want to save the surveying profession. I'm tired of surveyors getting beat up. I'm a pretty damn good scrapper. If you need somebody in your corner, I'm your guy. If you got E&O and somebody's going to help pay the bill, even better. I'm not going to give you 80, 100 hours for free, but I'm sure going to help you out, okay? We got to help each other. It's us against the world. 10,000 attorneys, one surveyor. Not a fair fight.
Okay. Jay's ready to go. I'll put Jay's contact in there for everybody too. In the
okay.
That's cool. Anybody else got anything else?
I was just going to add that I have joined our professional practices committee, our local chapter, and ALTAs are by far the most submitted complaints, at least locally for us.
Where are you?
Central California.
What chapter?
San Joaquin Valley.
San Joaquin, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of discouraging because, I don't know, it just seems like the standards they're not easy by any means, but they're right there in front of you, exactly what you need to put on the map. And it's still so hard to do it right. But I think a lot of them are coming from surveyors that aren't even in state. They haven't been out to the site. They contracted with a field crew that did the work, but they've never been out there and they don't really know what they're doing. and it's hard to go back and educate the client after the fact when they've already paid for that work. And you know, it worked for the title company, it worked for the attorneys, it worked to close escrow, and now the surveyor is being reported to the board. I don't know where I'm going with this conversation. I'm just complaining, I guess.
Been there, done that. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's have an ALTA workshop.
I like it.
When COVID goes away.
Well, our chapter has tried putting on workshops, but it feels like the people who are involved in the chapter and attend the meetings are the ones that need the workshops the least.
It's always true. It's always the people that don't belong to the association are the problem.
And that was just what I was about to say. So Rob's big push, he's on mute again, but Rob's big push every week, right? Join your state association. So they're going to help you more than you know, getting involved and being a part of any state association. So just help your own network. So one off topic thing, Kat, when is your CST stuff for your office?
So I've got 5 people studying right now, and our exam date is December 12th.
Oh, December 12th.
So I have a couple guys that I think are going to take it sooner, like online by themselves, and then a few that will allow me to hire a proctor, and we'll do it all on site.
Okay.
So
the state of Utah is doing a fall seminar, and it's one day, like 9 to 4, and it's all about CST level 1 and CST level 2. So
that's awesome.
I'll put that in the email, and then it's free, but I'm assuming it's free for Utah people, or maybe it's going to be free for everybody and you can just register, but I'll throw that in there tonight as well. So you can jump on that. So.
That'd be cool. I made the company pay for these study links, so anything free will get me brownie points.
Perfect. Got it. No worries. Cool. All right. I think that's about it, you guys. We're right there. Jay, thank you so much.
Anything for you, buddy. Anytime. You know that.
I love it. I love it. We'll hit you up with some other stuff.
Okay, buddy.
Awesome, guys. Have a good night.
Good to see you again.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Trent. Have a good night.
Okay, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.